Hello, everyone. This has been Bingham. I'm here again. Today I have a special guest. I have Traci with Haven, and today we're going to discuss a little bit about domestic violence and how it correlates with suicide and some of the things you can do to recognize the signs of such. First, I'd like you all to say hi to Traci.
Hi, thank you, Ben, for having me here today.
Thank you for coming. Would you mind telling us a little bit about Haven? What do you do and such?
Okay, so Haven is a tribal advocacy program that's been in place for over 10 years, serving survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and stalking. And then more recently, we've added services for victims of all types of crime. So we currently have a staff of 3. Kelly Jo Allman is the director of Haven, and she's also the lead advocate. Kathleen Osborne Gowie is the program administrator, and she's the crime victim advocate. And myself, Traci DeLano, I am the outreach coordinator, hence my visit here with you today, as well as an in-house advocate. And we're very excited that we're soon to be a staff of 4. We are hiring a legal advocate to help our clients navigate the court system.
That's very interesting indeed. So, what services does Haven provide?
The services that we provide clients are very unique to each individual. We've worked very hard to establish a very caring, judgment-free zone. When clients come into Haven for the first time, we want them to feel very comfortable while they share their story with us, give us details about their circumstances and what crisis they're in. And as we listen, we try to evaluate and see how we can best offer them support and encouragement. Some of the emergency services we provide would be rental assistance or utility bill assistance. Often a client may come into Haven for the first time with only the clothes on their back, that they've left a domestic situation that's very dangerous in a hurry. So we would provide them with clothing, personal care items, food, whatever they might need in their crisis. We also have a more long-term housing program for clients that need a little extra help on the way to self-sufficiency. So we provide some ongoing rental assistance and utility assistance. And that program also provides ongoing advocacy, help with budgeting, decision making, that type of thing. And then for our victims of all types of crime, um, for example, if someone had an arson in their house, we could provide them with an emergency place to stay or replacement belongings. Recently, we had a client whose tires were slashed on their car, so we were able to provide them, with replacement tires. If someone is a victim of identity theft or some type of fraud, we could provide lawyer services, which actually is a service we provide to many clients, access to a lawyer, as well as counseling, which is a wonderful service that Haven provides to their clients. Our clients have experienced trauma, so ongoing counseling help to a counselor of their choice is a wonderful service that we provide. So we're not limited to those things, but those are some of the basic services that we provide on an ongoing basis.
It's very interesting. Could you tell us who all is eligible for these services?
So to be eligible, you need to be an adult, 18 years old or older, and live in Ottawa County unless you are an Eastern Shawnee tribal member. Eastern Shawnee tribal members are eligible for services no matter where they live. If you're in a domestic violence situation, you need to be leaving the domestic violence situation within the last 6 months to qualify for services. And if you're a victim of another type of crime, then you need to provide a police report.
Very interesting. Traci, is there a connection with domestic violence and suicide?
Unfortunately, yes, there is a connection. I brought some information from the criminal justice website today that I wanted to share with you that has some statistics. Domestic violence is a factor in up to 1/4 of female suicide attempts. Female victims of domestic violence have 8 times the risk for suicide compared with the general population. 50% of battered women who attempt suicide undertake subsequent attempts. Married females experience lower suicide rates compared with single females. However, if domestic violence is present in the marriage, the risk of suicide increases. 1 in 12 pregnant women experience battering, while 20% of female pregnant victims of domestic violence attempt suicide. Research also shows, in addition to married and pregnant women, young girls experiencing domestic violence also have increased rates of suicide. Various risk factors relate to increased suicide rates among female domestic violence victims. Most obviously, the physical and psychological abuse by a partner may trigger suicidal thoughts. However, other underlying factors are also relevant, which concern individual and social issues. Regarding individual issues, research alludes to genetic factors involving family history of suicide and points to problems involving mental disorders, including aspects of anxiety, nervous breakdowns, depression, and post-traumatic stress. Depression and post-traumatic stress may be results of ongoing abuse from a partner or lingering aftereffects of a trauma occurring years earlier. For example, some battered females with suicidal tendencies indicate that they still deal with the psychological effects of sexual, emotional, or physical maltreatment experienced as a child. Combined with factors of low self-esteem, the psychological effects can trigger suicidal thoughts when victims blame themselves for the abuse. Regarding social issues, research shows that females in domestic violence situations are more likely to attempt suicide when drugs are used as a coping mechanism and when low levels of social support exist. So obviously, these are horrifying statistics and very eye-opening to just how serious domestic violence is. We hate to think that anyone turns to suicide as an option whenever Haven program exists and is here to help.
It's good that you guys are here, and it's good to hear you guys do this counseling as well. I believe our audience knows that we provide a counselor for our youth and such, and
Yes.
so it's open to everybody as well. Um, if they wish to get a hold of us, they can just call my number, which is in the directory, or it should be on the tribal website, and we can arrange for the counselor to be contacted. Traci, would you mind explaining, if I had a loved one I was a little concerned about, what are some of the signs of domestic violence?
That's a great question. We need to be educated on what domestic violence is and what it looks like, and before we can put an end to it in our culture and in our society. So domestic violence looks very different because there are many different types of abuse. We recognize physical abuse easier, and if you had a loved one that was involved in a relationship that was physically abusive, there may be outward signs and evidence that's easier to see. If someone's being punched or hit or kicked or choked or something physical, there may be outward signs and you may respond to that. But there are other types of abuse that may not be as evident. Sexual abuse, financial abuse, spiritual abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. All of those domestic violence abuses are very serious, they're very detrimental to the person that's experiencing them, and they're easier to hide. Those types of abuse can happen behind closed doors, and we may not easily see it in a friend or a relative. Sometimes people have difficult recognizing that in their own relationships. What all types of abuse have in common is an abuser who uses power and control over their victim. So if you are in a relationship, or someone you know is in a relationship, where their thought processes and their actions, independent thought and independent actions, are being curtailed by someone, then that's a major red flag. The situation, the relationship is obviously unhealthy, it's not respectful, and it could be abusive. So I think it's very important that we learn how to recognize these things in our own relationships, in other people's relationships. We have to remember too that unfortunately a lot of times the person that's experiencing the abuse tries to hide that from the people that are closest to them. There's a lot of different reasons for that. It may be a sense of shame, or their abuser may have convinced them that they deserve this or that it's all their fault. They may have a misguided attempt to protect somebody else. So that's another added aspect in domestic violence that's sometimes hidden because of the cooperation of the person that's being abused. So we need to look for those red flags. And then I think it's also so important, if we really want to help other people in our community, is to be the type of person that they can open up to and come to if they are experiencing it. It's so important to be a listener and someone that listens and offers support that's judgment-free. The last thing that someone needs that's being abused is someone telling them what they need to do about that. And a lot of times that comes out of a wonderful motive and they really care about them. But that's too much like that abuser that's exerting their power and control over them.
That's very interesting. I appreciate you sharing that with us. I don't have any more questions. Is there anything you'd like to say to the audience before we call it a day?
Well, I'm certainly the newest member of the Haven crew, so I'm sure there's something I have forgotten to share today, or maybe there's a question that your viewer has that they would like clarified. And certainly, if any of your viewers are in a relationship that they have concerns about, or if they have a friend or a family member that they're concerned about, Haven is here to help. There are many ways that you can connect with us. You can call us, you can text us, and there's lots of social media connections that I'm going to leave you with a link to our website. And I would just encourage your viewers, please call us. That's why we're here. We don't want anyone from our Eastern Shawnee tribal community or our community at large to feel like suicide is an answer. We're here to stand beside them, walk with them, and give them all of the support and encouragement that we possibly can to prevent that. Haven is a really special place. It truly is a refuge. Kelly, Joe, and Kat have created a refuge for survivors with the support of the tribe. I'm so pleased to be a part of it. It's a true blessing to be a part of Haven. So please feel welcomed to reach out to us if you need us.
Well, Traci, I thank you for your time today. I think that's all we have. I want to wish everybody who's watching this video a good day, and thank you for watching.
Thank you, Ben.
Hello, it's me again, Ben Bingham with the Native Connections program of the Eastern Shawnee tribe. Today we're going to talk a little bit about traditional cooking. We've all been stuck at the house due to COVID, and you know, sometimes tempers get frayed, you start feeling a little bad, but a lot of times I find if you have a good traditional meal with your family and spend some time with each other, it helps with those times. And so today we're going to teach you how to cook beef and hominy. It's pretty easy. You just need a can of hominy or two, depending on how big of a meal you want, some stew meat, and generally salt and pepper. The best way to start is to sear the meat, which means you brown it a little bit before you start cooking it with the hominy. You'll then pour the hominy in with the meat and begin cooking it. You'll want to make sure you stir it to keep it even and nothing will stick and burn. You then will let it boil until everything's cooked. And it usually turns out pretty good. You salt and pepper it to your personal taste. Some people like it a little blander, some people like a little more kick to it, so it's however you like it, but it's always good to just sit and have a good meal with your family. So as you can see, we're browning the meat because we want to get a little salt and pepper in it. It gives a little more taste when we cook it. And then when it's done browning, we will put it with the hominy. So that's what it looks like when it's cooking. So you really want it to boil for a little bit. As you can see, it's starting to, and it doesn't take too long to make this, maybe 20 or 30 minutes, and then you're ready for a meal. A lot of times other people add some other traditional dishes. It goes great with grape dumplings, and then sometimes you can have corn soup to go along with it as a little sweeter version of it, which is corn soup is actual corn and usually a pork, and it's cooked much like beef and hominy is, and it's quite good. So when you're done, this is what it'll look like, and if you try this at home, I hope you enjoy it. As always, thank you.